Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. We're back with a updated complete guide for Kai'Sa, our first video of patch 6.0. Of course, aside from that Syndra one, which was an old gameplay from the previous patch. But here's our first 6.0 gameplay, and of course we're going to be updating Kai'Sa's build, So, of course, before we talk too much about it, don't forget to check out Kai'Sa's basic guide. I'll put up in the cards above for her skills, leveling order tips and tricks, as well as a couple of combos. But without further ado, let's jump straight into the items, runes, and spells. So, not too much has changed since the previous iteration of this on-hit build. We first started with Terminus, rushing this one. Of course, giving you AD attack speed, on-hit magic damage, stacking resistances, stacking penetrations, and of course, most importantly, rushing this item gives you your Q evolve as quickly as it can. Then you go into boots, generally Gluttonous Greaves, AD, and Omnivamp. Some cases like to actually go for defensive boots second. I think that's actually alright. Because in this case, you're not, like, normally you rush like Gluttonous Greaves or Berserker's Greaves just for that early AD, but since you're not actually going for that anymore, you can of course go for defensive boots. However, take note that this is 35 AD, this is also 35 AD, so you literally double your AD when you complete your boots, which is half an item, so it is still worth it in that sense. So now the main change in this build is actually the swap between Runans and Blade of the Rune King. So you will see at the current moment, all the top 3 players all have gone for this build where they basically go for Runan's second item. Now, I've always been a believer in Runans on Kai'Sa, because I think it's great at, helping you, of course, stack your passive. I'll talk a little bit more about Runans versus Bork later on in the gameplay part of the video. But basically, with Runan second, you get the attack speed, you get more, of course, on hit. You also attack three people at the same time and apply that on hit. Also a little bit of AD. Then you have Bork. Bork, of course, gives you very similar stats to the Terminus. Of course, you get AD attack speed. This time you get physical vamp as well as current health on hit damage. And finally, you get the drain passive as well. And then at this point, this is where you want to go for Riftmaker. Riftmaker, of course, a great item on Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa scales off of AP, and it also gives you Omnivamp as well as gives you the true damage after you're in combat for a little while, and a generally decent stat line. Now, honestly, at this point, you generally have enough damage, so you want to go for something defensive. I personally like Twin Guard as the best option. Gives you both resistances as well as, of course, giving you even more when you have let it stack for like 5 times, right? So, next up, we have the runes. So the runes, little tempo for the extra range and the attack speed. Of course, the brutal, just because you auto attack a lot. Of course, even though the brutal has been kind of reworked a little bit, of course, you still want to always go for it. And it is even better in the late game. Giant Slayer to counter the tanks, and Alacrity just for more attack speed. I mean, Omnivamp versus Alacrity. Generally, Alacrity is better because you output more DPS with more attack speed. And then we have Bone Plating for the defensive capabilities. Now we get into the interesting discussion of spells. So obviously, one spell is always going to be Flash. But now, with all the changes to the spells in the latest patch, now we actually have a debate over what is going to be the second spell. So I'm gonna go for a rather lengthy explanation here. I will of course put this in the thumbnail, not thumbnail. I'm gonna put this in timestamp, so you can jump to this one if you need to. But basically now for ADCs, you have a couple of options for spells. So you of course have Ghost, you have Heal, you of course have Exhaust, Barrier, as well as Cleanse. So you never really want to take Ignite on ADCs. Now, in my opinion, Ghost is still going to be the go-to option for some ADCs, such as Vayne, such as maybe Zeri, such as Sivir. Basically, champions that need movement speed, are still going to want to go for Ghost. For Kai'Sa, this is not going to be the case. I think Heal is always going to be a decent option, especially only if your support doesn't have Heal. But I think out of all the options here, Heal is generally the most selfless one, the least selfish option, and I personally wouldn't go for it. Now, Barrier definitely has a place. Barrier early game, especially in those early game 2v2s, is actually really, really strong. So Barrier is definitely a decent option here. Now, Exhaust is, of course, still really, really strong. Now it has, of course, increased range, but lesser slow. But, of course, as an ADC, you generally use Exhaust not for the slow, but more for the damage reduction. So Exhaust on ADCs are still really good. You can of course go for this on Kai'Sa. This is still really good on Kai'Sa. Barrier also really good on Kai'Sa. But lastly, you have Cleanse. So Cleanse, of course, removes Disable. So what are Disables? Basically, CC, That includes knockups, it also includes any other CC that you can QSS, and it also includes things like exhaust. So you can cleanse exhaust, and you can cleanse basically anything that debuffs you, like poison, ignite. All of these things can be cleansed, and you get immunity to disables for 0.75 seconds. So this spell, of course, is really good. But you only want to go for this if there are a lot of disables on the enemy team, especially CC, right? You don't want to go for this all the time. So now for Kai'Sa in particular, it's really a debate between cleanse, barrier, and exhaust, depending on the situation. I think with these changes to spells, you actually have a lot more freedom in terms of what you choose. It's not so stock standard where you go for exhaust every game or you go for ghost every game. It's kind of more situational. But with all that covered, let's now move on to talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now jumping into the gameplay itself, of course, as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and of course be sure to address them. So the first thing I really wanted to say is not really about Kai'Sa itself, it's just about the new patch. So I'm sure a lot of you guys would have experienced this one as well, but basically for iPhone users, the game is insane right now. In a sense that it causes you to your phone to overheat, and it drains your battery like mad. Just the other day I was in a queue for a long while, couldn't find a match, and it drained 10% of my battery just in the queue. And like every match I play now, like in ranks, like a 15-20 minute match is gonna drain like 20% of my battery, and like my phone is like about a year old only, so it's just completely whack what's going on in the patch right now. I saw on Reddit that a lot of iPhone users have been experiencing the same thing. And also I actually went to Riot support and submitted a ticket, and the guy who was looking at my ticket actually uses iPhone as well, and he told me he was experiencing the same issue as well. So if you guys are experiencing it, of course, do send a ticket to Riot, bring it to their attention, hopefully it gets fixed quickly. It's already been like 3 days at least, and it's not been fixed yet, and it's just kind of impossible to play the game at this point. You can only, like, or at least myself, I can only really play one game at a time, and then I have to let my phone kind of rest, which is kind of ridiculous if you really think about it. But yeah, that's the current state of the game for me. So it's also kind of why there's not been content the past couple of days. Of course, I've also been trying my best to test out new builds and the new patch, just with this kind of crutch of having only to play one game at a time. But yeah, this is kind of the situation we find ourselves in now. So as I promised in the build section of the video, I want to kind of discuss Runans and Bork. Right, so most people have actually gone for Runan second. Now some of them are not even building Bork, and while I personally think that honestly this comes down to two factors in my opinion, right? Number one, personal preference, and number two, the situation of the game. Because I don't necessarily think Bork or Runans is better. One is better than the other. It really kind of depends on what you need and what you prefer. It's just like that, right? Like Bork really is only good into like matches where there are tanks, where there's health. It's not really that great of an item otherwise. And Runans is generally good in matches where there's a lot of frontline or where there's a lot of team fights. Like if you're trying to assassinate a single person, Runans is generally not that good because it really doesn't help you all that much. It really only helps you if you're trying to team fight and you're trying to like melt through a front line. So generally, if you guys can see that, right, Runans and Bork both work well together, right? Because Bork gives you current health on hit damage, Runan helps you hit 3 people in the front line at the same time, and apply the on hit of Bork, and at the same time apply Kai'Sa's passive stacks to then proc the passive and kill them faster, right? So really, these two items work in tandem, and whether you go Bork first or Runans first, both can kind of work. I think that actually in general, Bork first generally makes more sense because it has a better stat line than Runans. It has the healing, it has the AD, whereas Runans is just pure attack speed because it's like allows you to attack 3 people at the same time. So as such, it has to be a little bit weaker because attacking 3 people at the same time is kind of a really strong thing to have. So generally, I think Bork first is better. But I think Runans first is better when there are a lot of team fights, or if you're like really behind and you get to the mid game and you want to complete a second item, you want to go Runans before Bork most likely. Or like in this game, there's a lot of team fights, you want to go for Runans first. Or if you just don't want to think too much about it, just follow whatever the top players are building at the time, right? No need to put too much thought into it because I really think that both of them are good in their own ways, and again, it's preference and circumstance. Generally, you're gonna end up building both, at least for me. Yeah, so that is what's going on right now. A lot of changes in the game, of course. It's the first video of the patch, so we will of course talk about some changes as well, aside from talking about Kai'Sa. Here, Nunu's coming in for a gank. Varus whiffs the ult. Nunu whiffs the snowball. And we are against Varus Lulu, which is a pretty strong lane. Varus is, of course, pretty strong in the early game, and Lulu, it scales really well. It's going to make Varus strong in the late game. Of course, Kai'Sa, decent in the early game, but of course, really good in the late game as well. We have a Maokai, and the main reason why supports like Maokai and even like supports like Set, etc. are actually good right now, as the Nunu comes in for another gank again, and we're trying to hide behind our tower to avoid the snowball, and Maokai unfortunately does go down to the 3v1. But one of the reasons why these kind of supports are really good is because of the new item Yordle Trap. Like, I think Yordle Trap is a completely OP item. Like, the OP part about it is it costs only 2,500 gold, right? Actually, there's many parts that's OP about it, right? Firstly, it's only 2,500 gold. And for 2,500 gold, you get Ability Haste, armor, and health. Basically, armor and health are generally what tanks want in their first item, or like just a lot of health, or if not, health and armor. Is generally what they want, like from their early items, which is exactly what you get with the Yordle Trap. And if that wasn't enough, what more do you get is the 200 to 300 gold sharing from the item when you displace someone and then you get a kill within 5 seconds. And with Maokai especially, this is really easy to trigger because Maokai starts off the combo with the ult or the W, which do not displace. The displacing ability is the Q, which is normally what you use at the end of your combo. So it means that when you go in with all your CC and you combo everything, is kind of when the Yordle Trap triggers, and then you have 5 seconds to kill, which is like, for example, here, like right there. So here, for example, if he had the Yordle Trap, I probably would have triggered it here, but since we heavy committed with the ult, we're gonna tank tower and finish the kill on Varus for a 1v1 trade right there. So Yordle Trap is really strong, and like this makes engage supports like really good right now, and I think that engage supports are and not engage supports, but Yordle Trap users are just really good. Like, it's not just engage supports, it's champions like Darius, Singed, Set, even top laners who can proc the the Yordle Trap. Of course, there are a lot of other champions that can proc it as well. For example, Syndra on her E, or like Orion on the ult can proc Yordle Trap, but these champions are never gonna build the Yordle Trap, right? It doesn't make any sense. So it's really only champions who can and will build Yordle Trap that are made a lot better by the item. And if you like rush that as a first item, you can get so much gold throughout the game. Like I played with duo with Maokai for a couple of games, and every game, even the ones that were doing badly and even the ones that were behind, we consistently were able to get over 1,000 gold on Yordle Trap. So Yordle Trap is just, in my opinion, is completely busted of an item, and like support players ought to abuse it right now. But of course, we're not here to talk about Yordle Trap and support. We're here to talk a little bit about Kai'Sa. But I just thought that was a pretty big tie-in, just because it gives you a lot of gold just based off of the fact that you're generally the main benefactor of that item. But let's take stock of where we are in the game right now. We have already gotten our first item. We've gotten the Terminus. We are of course building towards our boots. In this case, I'm still gonna go for the Gluttonous Greaves here. Varus is taking a tower plate for himself. We're getting baited by our Riven, who's pinging that she's on the way, but she really isn't. Riven has given us no love in this match whatsoever, whereas Nunu has come to visit us quite a number of times. Unwanted visits, I might add. So here, finally, Riven is going in. Maokai goes in with the ulti. I ult in. We're gonna finish off the Lulu. There we go. Here, I cleansed the Varus ulti, but I don't really think I needed to do that because I got hit by everything he cast anyway, so it's not like it really helped me all that much. But we're able to get him by the skin of our teeth, and picking up the mushrooms before we go back. Support is trying to steal those mushrooms from us. And to some extent, I'm kind of thinking that, should ADCs be giving supports the mushrooms? I mean, the mushrooms gives you like a total of like, what, 12 gold? And like, giving 12 gold to your support is not a very big deal, right? But I guess they do add up in the long haul. Like, if you never take the mushrooms, I guess, you will be losing out on a lot of gold in the long run. The mushrooms are a really interesting mechanic, and my thoughts on the mushrooms are, if you're already stuck on the tower, if you're already planning to back, you should always just pick them up. Not always, but you should mostly pick them up first. Sometimes you actually don't want to waste that 1 second or 2 seconds of picking them up, because you probably want to get back, and you do lose 2 seconds of tempo if you do that. So that could be a bad thing. But on the other hand, if you're on the way out, it could also be a bad thing, because you also lose some time, and that could maybe not work out in some instances. So kind of depends on the situation, but I pretty much think that it's only really good to take if you are able to. It's not like a must take. Like, you're not losing out on gold if you don't take it. I mean, yes, you are losing out on gold, but sometimes is that like 12 gold worth your tempo, kind of situation. So yeah, only take it if the situation is right. Don't get baited by it. Like, definitely, if you're like shoving the enemy in, don't walk back. Take the mushrooms and then walk back towards the enemy tower again to continue shoving them in. That's gonna be a huge waste of time. You definitely don't want to do that. You should only really pick up the mushrooms if it's convenient. Otherwise, do not pick up the mushrooms. So here at 3, 3, and 3, for some reason, Varus just walks straight into us, which is whack. So here unfortunately I get chain CC'd. I was a bit confused about the cleanse usage at this time, because this was actually, was this my first game on the patch? It's either my first game on the patch or one of my first few games on the patch, but I didn't actually realize that cleanse could cleanse so many things. Like, I didn't realize I could cleanse knockups up till the point where I tried it and it worked. So I think that there I could have actually just cleansed, but I just didn't because I actually didn't know I could. So that was definitely a mistake in hindsight. And I think cleanse, I wouldn't say cleanse is OP, right? It feels OP because it just wasn't in the game, right? But in PC, it's been in the game forever. And I definitely don't think people are just, saying that cleanse is OP. I mean, to some extent, Flash is OP, right? Because it's just a free blink for every champion in the game. But my point is that, everyone has access to summoner spells, so it's just alright. Here we lose our second dragon. Like, both of these dragons were started by us, but one was stolen by Varus and the other stolen by our good friend, the Nunu. So here I'm just free hitting on the backline. So here I ult in, finish off the whoever that was, the Darius or the Nunu, one of them. But unfortunately, Varus just bursts us down. Like Varus is going for the classic ER into try force build, and that's just bursting us down because he procced all of his blight stacks on us, and yeah, we're just taking a chunk of damage. So what you will notice is that you can see here, we are having quite a number of team fights in this particular game, which is why I chose to actually go for the Runan's second item. Because in this game, I think we can make really good use of the Runans. They also have a really solid front line with Darius and Nunu, so we can proc onto the two of those beefy frontliners, and of course we can get rid of them faster, and then move on to the backline. Of course we can ult the backline if need be, but of course the point of Runans is just to stack up those passives onto the front line, and of course just get rid of the front line all the more faster. So here I'm in a 1v1 with Varus while Lulu's getting cut off. Unfortunately, I'm not winning the 1v1, so I'm going to have to hightail it out of there. This is one of those situations where if I had Bork instead, the 1v1 would have been a lot better because I would have gotten the Bork healing, I would have gotten the Bork extra current health damage, extra AD from Bork, the drain passive from Bork. So going Runan's second does have its drawbacks. Like, it's not like going Runan second is really amazing or anything like that. There are definitely pros and cons to Runans versus Bork as a second item. I think Bork in that situation would have helped me twice as much as me having Runans in the situation. But regardless, we're still doing really well. This game is a very even game. Both teams are basically on even goal. Like, almost every lane is kind of even, honestly, at this point. I mean, the main discrepancy is our jungle has about 500 gold lead, and the enemy mid laner has about 1,000 gold lead. But all other lanes are like kind of relatively even, which is kind of amazing to see. These kind of games are not very common. Me and Varus are like kind of on par. I mean, I've just taken a wave, so I'm overtaking him by like 500 gold now. But basically, anything like within a 500 gold difference is not huge at this point in the game because it's mid game. So here you can see the huge fight. Now here's where my Runas is coming in. I'm just blasting people down and just trying to proc my passive. See, I'm just spacing and just trying to proc my Runans. There we go. We get rid of the Darius. Varus in trouble. We ult in kill the Varus, and then we go in for the Nunu, and we actually pick up a triple here, which ends up becoming an ace after the first two kills have already been picked up by our team. And with that ace, we can pick up the tier 1 and tier 2 mid lane towers, and this really opens up the map for myself and my team. And of course, we also get a huge amount of gold just from taking 2 towers, as well as, of course, grabbing those 3 kills. Now this actually puts me in a huge goal lead. I have the most goal in the game right now. I actually completed my Bork already. So we actually picked up the Runans, gone for one fight, and then picked up Bork. So this is, you can see that in that Varus 1v1 is where I really would have wanted Bork instead of Runans. And then this, like team fight is where I would have really wanted Runans over Bork, and I did have that. So that of course allowed me to just DPS multiple people at the same time, proc passive with multiple people at the same time. There I actually saw Darius, and I actually thought he was going to hook me, but I invised and just ran in a very predictable manner, but he didn't even try to hook me, which is great. So here I just checked the bush with my W, he's still in there, Lux is getting caught out. I actually could ult her here, but my team has it covered, no need to waste ult for that kill. And however, my team don't got it, so I'm gonna have to ult in eventually, finish off the Lux. Now we're focusing onto Darius, single target here, 4v1. Down he goes, Riven is taking care of the rest of them. And by taking care of, I mean chasing them away. And now with us in a 5v3, we're going for Baron. However, we have learned our lesson. 2 objectives have already been stolen. We need to get rid of the Nunu before before we go for the objective. So here Nunu gets caught out. We are all just focusing him down. He's really tanky, but he's not going to survive like 4 people worth of damage. And then Lulu is now going to be the next target. I'm going to leave that to the Riven, and I'm going to go back and help my team to DPS the Baron. Third dragon has spawned, and this is going to be Soul for the enemy team, which is going to be Ice Soul. So we do want to deny it if we can. Looks like we're going straight toward the dragon. Nunu, of course, is still dead, as is Lulu, which is why we can kind of go for this, because the enemy death timer is kind of desynced, because we first killed Darius and Lux, and then after that we killed Nunu and Lulu, so they're still in a 3v5, because 2 people died at 2 different timings, which is kind of unfortunate for them. And here we actually pick up QSS, and you might be thinking, like, do you really need both cleanse and QSS? Well, I didn't really need stasis in this match, right? Because if you really think about it, like, if I'm scared of getting bursted by Lux or Varus, both of them have abilities that can be QSS, right? So I might as well have both cleanse and QSS, because there's so much CC, right? I can cleanse like Darius hook, Nunu knockup. Of course, I can do that for Lux and Varus' CC as well. But I can also QSS Lux, Varus, and Lulu's CC. So all in all, so much CC on the enemy team. I definitely think that this is a game that you can go for both QSS as well as cleanse. And actually, a lot of my cleanse games, I've actually decided to go for stasis instead, because I think it's a little bit overkill to have 2 CC removal tools. I think it's not really very necessary. So generally I don't go for that, but this is one of those rare games that I actually think it is necessary, and I have actually gone for that, as you guys can see here. And we're going for another team fight. We still have the Baron buff, of course, pushing in with the wave. Our bot wave is also kind of slowly pushing in. I'm just attacking people from range. Varus ulti comes down. I'm standing outside of the range. And yeah, here you can see I'm just blasting whoever's in front. Darius is kind of getting CC'd here. Pops the gargoyles. Really, really tanky. No one really dies, but they do take a ton of damage from myself. Now here we have the wave incoming on the bot lane. Of course, the bot lane inhibitor way more important than the mid lane one, so we actually quickly take the bot lane one before they can respond. And now Nunu is kind of a little bit trapped. He has to flash out. Here I'm ulting it onto the Varus, get rid of him. Nunu is the next target. Down he goes. And now I'm just DPSing from range. I got rooted there. Didn't even cleanse or QSS because it wasn't even necessary. Now I'm just running away because I'm getting run down by Darius. We pick up unofficial triple kill, I believe. Go legendary. Now we're focusing Lulu. There we go. And now finally we go for our final target. Actually, that was an unofficial pentakill, which I didn't even notice when I was actually playing the game. I actually got a double kill and then like a triple kill, so that's unofficial penta there. Gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you so much for watching the video, and goodbye.